All right. Welcome, Coach. Welcome. Blind
Hello.
Metal Gamer here. Hey. This is Blind Metal Gamer here. This is the Blind Side Podcast. And tonight we have a very special treat for you all out there. We're going to be talking about the Kentucky School for the Blind and its rich history. As you all know, this week is Founders Day coming up. So I'll let you take it from here, Coach. Would you like to share some history of the school?
Oh, goodness. That's a big task because the history of the school is just so vast. I mean, the school came, of course, in existence in 1842 and still going today. It's definitely one of the oldest schools in the state. Um, it would just be so hard to know where to begin when you open with a question of the history of the school, but it is definitely a magnificent history that encompasses a lot of years. Of course, this is the second time in the school's history that it has had to close down. Of course, it had to do so in around the Civil War, and of course with this pandemic.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's it has a great history. I've been doing
Yes.
I've sort of been looking at some things from 1945 when the superintendent that really brought the school into the modern age, and until this point, looking back through some of the history, and the more I look at, the more I'm amazed at just how the school has grown, and just how some of the great alumni that the school has had over just those 75 years. So when you go back in previous years before Dr. Langen or Mr. Langen became superintendent, some of the things that I've learned through records that I've been sent and I've looked at, it's really amazing. It's just a lot. It's hard to believe.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, I remember Coach Jones. I had the honor of going to the school from 1988 to 2001. And I can tell you through my experiences, it was a good experience. I mean, learning the academia and then going, wrestling under varsity wrestling. Coach Larry Mann, which I never got to wrestle for him, but I wish I could have. I really wish I could have because I heard it was just a great experience and all the championships he won from 1967 to 1993. Very good sports legacy. And the alumni that the school has produced has been great. A lot of good talents come out of there. And as you alluded to earlier, this is the second time in history the school has had to close. Um, so yeah, this whole school's history alone is just vast and very deep and epic. So, what what would be some memories that you would cherish at the school while you attended there?
I personally, I attended the school from 1969 to 1978, 9-year period that I really thoroughly enjoyed. Some of the greatest memories that I did have were, there's so many. I'd have to break it up into different categories, but
Go ahead.
sports first, I guess I'll discuss. Um, the One of the greatest memories that I had was in 1975, and that was the first time that the track team won the overall conference championship in track and field. And the memory that I have from that is we were we were kind of down point wise going into the last few events of that meet. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. But
Okay.
it's
It's all
very
good.
it's very possible that could not have happened, because right before the finals we used to have a 50-yard dash and a 75-yard dash right after lunch. There were a couple of people who were caught smoking, and even though I
Oh
didn't
no.
smoke, you know, I didn't smoke. I was just standing there with them. Um, I think it was two members of that team that ended up scoring our last 40 points of that 50-yard and 75-yard dash, where we ended up sweeping those events and scoring 40 points and ended up winning the conference championship. So when we got back to school, there was just a few days later, there was this big celebration that we had in the courtyard, to honor that championship team. And we also had an article written in the Courier Journal about that championship. And that was just such a great memory. Of course, during that time was kind of our heyday in athletics. We won several conference championships, not only in track and field during my time on the team from 1973 was my first year to 78, but we also won several wrestling championships, conference championships as well. And so those were some good memories, and going to those conference championships and having teams that did so well in those conference championships. But even in addition to the championships, just the camaraderie of the team that we had, and taking those long trips on the van. We didn't travel in a bus at that time, but girls and boys rode the trips on in separate vans, and just the camaraderie that we had, riding on those trips, and the fun that we had with the other teams on those trips were just such great memories. And then when it comes to music, I played in a band with some folks. We called ourselves Free Spirit, and we are like a combo band. And the performances that we had, the dances that we played, that was fun. We would, in addition to practicing, during the class, at that time we could get in we could practice on our own. At that time, the music building wasn't finished, wasn't done, wasn't there. And our musical instruments and things, they were in the food service. So we could get into the food service, get our instruments out and played. And, we would just rehearse by ourselves, and we would just learn a number of songs on our own, and just to play those at various assemblies, various dances, and that sort of thing was just outstanding. Tom Morton was our teacher, and he was an outstanding teacher. And then chorus, um, Dorothy Nolan was a fantastic teacher. The performances that we had in chorus were
Oh
wonderful.
yes. Good on
Yep,
Miss Nolan.
she was outstanding.
Oh yes.
Then we also had a barbershop quartet that we
Oh.
performed. And at that time, every year we would play in the and sing in the music. The state would have a it was, you could perform, and you would get graded on your performances. One would be a superior, and I don't remember the grading system, but most of the time, our musical groups, we got a superior one. So we were outstanding. Kentucky Music, whatever it's called, but that was terrific. KMEA,
KMEA.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that too, Mr. Jones. I was a part of that too during my time there, although I was in it for
Yeah.
violin. And like your people, I got superiors as well. There was only one time I didn't get graded, and that was the very first time I had competed in KMEA in 1996. I didn't have my piano
Right.
accompaniment.
Right.
And they were like, "Oh, I can't grade you." I'm like, "Oh, Miss Nolan was not thrilled at that one, but I learned my lesson."
Right. Yeah. I mean, she would take so many students down there. Of course, she started the
Oh, I
violin
know.
program in the early 70s in Suzuki, and that just took off. Uh, it's
Oh,
an
yes,
outstanding
yes,
program.
yes.
It's a shame that some of that still doesn't exist, but I guess
Oh, I know.
other memories that of course I had. I was on the journalism staff when we wrote articles for the Kentucky Colonel, and that was just so fun. To be able to, those skills really help with writing skills, and to be able to interview people, and that was a really great experience. It's just so
Oh,
many
yes.
opportunities that the school provided for us. It's wonderful. Some great teachers that we had there that really they cared. You knew that they cared about you as a student.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I remember. I'm going to share a couple of my favorite memories. When I was there, of course, you were the math teacher when I first started in 1988, and then when I got older, you became the wrestling coach, the varsity coach. And I remember the trip for back in 1997. We went to Missouri that year, and it was frigid cold outside, and we would always have our team meetings, and you would always motivate us to be a good team. And I remember just observing. I didn't get to compete that year. I mean, I observed, but I learned so much from that observation that I was ready for what would have been the '98 conference. But like I said, things kind of happened and put me out of wrestling. So, but yeah, I still follow KSB sports to this day, and as for other memories, I'm sure you remember me being a DJ for the radio
Right.
station. I did that. I was part of the Big Brother Big Sister mentoring program. I also sang in chorus, which was pretty awesome. I played violin for Miss Nolan, which was amazing. She was a very good teacher. Another teacher that I really liked, and I wish I could have had him on. I wish I could have gotten him on this tonight. Was Coach Mann, Coach Larry Mann. I'm sure
Oh,
you remember him.
absolutely.
Oh, I wish I could have gotten. He would have had many a good stories to tell. About his conference victories and all that. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited to be able to do this podcast and share some, memories, and we can talk about KSB and kind of spread some awareness. Um, so yeah, what was your favorite thing most about the school as far as dorm life and the opportunities
Oh,
that
staying in
provided?
the dorm was great. I even though I lived in Louisville, I stayed in the dorm from my freshman year through my senior year, and it took a while for my mother to let me stay in the dorm. She wanted me at home and that sort of thing. And when I first got in athletics, I would, something they wouldn't even begin to let kids do now is I would ride the bus home after practice home. And I did that for my first, year and a half in varsity athletics. And I would hear all these great things that kids were able to do and all the fun that they were having and all this kind of stuff. And I wanted to be a part of that. So I finally convinced my mother to let me stay in the dorm. So beginning of middle of my freshman year, I started staying in the dorm. And oh, that was just such a really fun experience. Some of the things that we did in there were just amazing. I mean, some of the practical jokes that we would play on each other, and uh, the relationships you would build with the students there and even the dorm parents there were just outstanding. But we definitely had some really good times in the dorm. The last day of school was always a big thing in the dorm, just to see what you could get away with. And boy, the last day of my sophomore year was something that was really wonderful. We had a dorm parent. His name was Bob Rowley, and he told me a good prank to play on, some of the older kids, because the older kids, what they would do sometimes is they wanted to harass the younger kids, and the older kids were downstairs and we younger kids were upstairs, and they'd come up and terrorize us and that kind of stuff, flip beds and stuff like that. So to get back at him, this dorm parent, he told me, well, what you need to do is you fill up a bag with shaving cream, and then you let it then you set it in the middle of the room, and then you just stomp on it and watch what happens. So I went down there when everybody was at dinner, filled up this bag of shaving cream, and all of their, it's the night before the end of school, so all of their suitcases and all of that, they had clothes everywhere on their beds and suitcases open and that sort of thing. So I did what he said. I filled that bag up and I dropped a big old book on it. And I mean, shaving cream just went from one side of the room to the other side.
Oh no!
And when they came back, it was Doug Keithley, Richard Barnhart, and Donnie Stivers, who was in that room. And of course, they knew who did it. So they were after me that whole night. It was so bad. They were after me so bad that there were two dorm parents in rooms in Huntoon, in up the old Huntoon dorm, that there was an extra dorm. There's only one dorm parent on, so I stayed in the other dorm parent room because it had a door that could lock. That night.
Oh man!
So I had to stay in their room, but I would stick my head out the window, and they would try and spray me with water. They really wanted me that night.
Oh, they wanted revenge.
They had to wash all their clothes and everything. It was a mess, but it was fun.
Oh boy, I remember. I'll share one of my favorite last day of school memories. It was the last day before school. It was, I believe, my junior year. So I was in the independent dorm program with a guy by the name of Daniel Johnson. He was my roommate, and me and Daniel, we would always, just kick back. But with this time, he wanted to do something because he was graduating. He wanted me to remember him somehow, and Daniel gave me a comb. I was like, Daniel, I'm not gonna. He said it's not to you, just to remember me. But I was like, oh. So I think I gave him a thing of candy or something for him to remember me by. And that just shows right there the caring and compassion that you would get in the dorms. I remember one house parent, my first house parent, the late great Elizabeth Oakes, which she was the first one to kind of take me under her wing and show me the ropes.
Yeah.
And then I had Miss Pat Sanders. She was amazing. All my dorm parents were just amazing people. Yeah, there were strict at times, but they shaped me into the person I am today. So, do you have any particular dorm parents that really helped you as far as, having to be firm but fair to get you ready for the real world?
Oh yeah. Definitely. We had some good dorm parents over the years. One of my favorite dorm parents, who most people don't remember, I just mentioned his name. His name was Bob Rowley. He was really he was really a good dorm parent. He was strict, but he was fair. Let's see. Another dorm parent I really liked. I'm sure some people that listen may know. His name was Frank Bush, and he was a dorm parent my junior, maybe part of my senior year. but he was a law student actually. He was going to
Oh
law
man.
student at U of L. He graduated from Berea College. I really liked him. He really started making me think about, I've been of course, my plans were to go to college, but we've talked about college a whole lot, and he really set my mind on that. He really made me realize, yeah, definitely it's something I could do. And he was a really good fella. I really appreciated what he did for me a whole lot. There were there's a married couple. The actual dorm parent her name was Sarah McKernan, but she was married to a fellow named Doc as well. And they were one of the first of two set of dorm parents that I had. Sarah and Doc McKernan, they were really good as well. And Joe White, he was very interesting as well. So I had some really good dorm parents. I really didn't have a so-called bad dorm parent. Well, one that I didn't care for very much. She was just too young for the job, I think. But, for the most part, I had had a really good dorm parent that really helped quite a bit.
Cool. Yeah, for me, I would say the ones that helped me, like I said, Ms. Oaks, Miss Pat Sanders. She was the more firm but fair one, because she was preparing me for, okay, you got to do chores, got to have your responsibilities. And then when I moved up to Brenda Begley's dorm, the late Brenda Begley's, okay, I had my responsibilities, but I
All
had
right.
freedom. And one day, I believe we were on a wrestling meet. I think we were going to be wrestling Doss. And I didn't check out with her, check in. I just went straight with you guys. And I got put in the dorm for it. So I learned my lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Um,
had some really good ones. You all had some really good ones over there, during the time you were there. Now, did you have
oh
Miss
yeah.
A?
Who now?
Alexander?
Yeah, Miss Alexander. Yes, I had Miss Alexander. Unfortunately, she passed away this year. So, that was kind of. I had her as a morning dorm parent. I never got the fear of Miss Alexander put in me, but I know some students that did. Some of you who might be listening, Timmy Martin. That name might ring a bell. Or
Oh
Michael
yeah.
Hunter. That name might ring a bell. But I would say all my dorm parents were good and preparing me for, of course, going to public school my senior year and then doing the work I do now with the Commonwealth Council on Developmental Disabilities. So, kind of preparing me for the real world. Okay, as for teachers, do you have any particular teachers that you liked? And were there any that were really, really strict? You were like, oh no, I have so and so for this class. I'm dreading it.
Well, the strict one I would have to say, everybody talks about Miss Horton. And she would be, I guess, the one you would call the strict one. She was the one that, during that time, people wore T-shirts and that kind of stuff. She wasn't going to have it. I didn't wear T-shirts. I always wanted to look nice and stuff. But she wanted your shirt tucked in. And she put a lot of pressure on me. She was an African-American teacher, and I was one of few, well, I was the only African American kid in middle and high school at the time, and she put a lot of pressure on me to do my best. We used to have study hall, and if you didn't get, supposedly, if you didn't, if you got 2 D's or 1 F during the week, you got put on study hall the next week. Well, she
Oh
put
no.
me on it, and I did not have bad grades. She just put me on it because she felt like I wasn't doing my best work. And I mean, it went as far as I refused to go and ended up getting suspended, but that's a different story. But,
Oh no. Oh no.
she was the strict one. But I liked her. I liked her husband. His name was Calvin Horton. He taught science. She taught math. I had several good teachers. Goodness, most people are familiar with Ken Howard. He was the social studies teacher, the history teacher. Really liked Ken Howard. He was Paul Harvey. He was a big Paul Harvey fan. So if you were in his room when Paul Harvey was coming on, you were going to listen to Paul Harvey. But he taught you the basics that you needed to know in regards to history. Really liked him a whole lot. There was a teacher there that was only there for about a year, but really taught me a lot about English. Her name was Alice Lambert. That I really, I really liked her a lot. When I was in elementary school, the strict teacher was Dixie Hauser. She was LP Hauser's wife.
Oh, I've heard of her. I've heard that name
Yes.
before. And
She
LP as
was
well.
the abacus queen. You had to learn that abacus front ways, sideways, backwards, and forwards. We learned how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, everything on that abacus, everything. So to this day, I still know how to do the abacus. And even when I took that class in college, I could have taught the teacher how to teach the abacus. But she was something. She was good. And it's so many good teachers that I had there. Of course, I've talked about some that are already. Music, Dorothy Nolan.
Oh yes,
Dorothy Nolan, Larry Mann. In as far as PE, goodness, who just slipped out of my mind here. It's just so many that I had that were Tom Morton.
Yeah, Mr. What about Coach McMurray?
Yeah, he was before my time. Yeah, he was the wrestling coach for 1 year during that championship team in 66. Coach Murray. Yeah, so he was gone by the time I got there. So
all right, let's see. As for my favorite teachers, I had Miss Patty Dilg, and then I had Miss McDowell, Clark. I remember, for those of you who might be listening, that remember her. And then I had Meg Stone, Miss Meg Stone. And I remember having her as a teacher. And then I had Miss Mary Helen Welsh. And then I had Miss Gutman, Miss Creasy, Miss Karen Corbett. I had Ms. McMillan, which was pretty cool. And then I moved up to middle school, had Miss Creasy again. She kind of moved up on us. She was
English teacher. She became right. Yeah, language arts.
She was the science teacher actually. Science. And then for language arts, I had Miss Magruder, Judy Magruder. For those of you who might be listening, and one of my things I remember about Miss Magruder, she would give it to you very straight. And if she felt you needed to have a few cuss words thrown at you, not major ones, but mild ones, in a way that she didn't do it often. But when she did swear, it was only when needed.
Yes.
I remember a book we were reading. It's called My Brother Sam is Dead. And when she read it, she didn't censor any of the language. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I got the book and then I read it on my own. And I was like, oh, wow, she wasn't making this stuff up. Very, very good teacher. Miss Creasy was very, very good. She was strict on those who would rock back and forth. I remember I would do that and not catch myself. And she would be like, stop that rocking right now. It was really, really fun, but I knew what she was doing. She was doing it to be fair and firm, but preparing me for the real world. And then I remember, let's see, high school, I had Miss Rusheville, Carla Rusheville. I had Mr. Samira Zier. I had Dr. John Sasser for algebra. I had Miss, let's see here, Diane Foster for World Civilizations, Consumer Math. And let's see, what else I have her for? Oh, yeah, for history. And then I had Miss Cheney for English, and then Mr. Ennis for health and physical education. So I got to experience Coach Mann and Coach Ennis.
Yeah, some really good teachers. You just mentioned some names of some really good teachers. Actually, can't believe we actually had one of the same teachers, Miss Clark. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
I'll tell you a funny story about Miss Clark real quick. Miss Clark
All
taught
right.
at the she taught at Carmichael Elementary, the school that I went to in public school. Me and my brother went to. And at Carmichael
Mm-hmm.
Elementary, I didn't do anything much but run the hallways. We had a teacher that really didn't have control of our class. We were in what's called a so-called
Mm-hmm.
sight-saving room with a bunch of
Oh
kids with
boy.
visual impairments from first grade through fifth grade. And we didn't learn a whole lot, to be honest. We just kind of ran over the teacher. And of course, Miss Clark observed this. And when I came to KSB, it's about the same time she came to KSB. She said, "Yeah, I remember you at Carmichael, and you are not going to behave like you did at Carmichael here." And so she had her thumb on me and warned the other teachers about me from the very beginning.
Oh no. Yeah, and then a quick story about Miss Stone. I remember I had her, and then I got to go to her house. Me and Jennifer Himes, now Jennifer Holloway, got to go to her house and spend the night. And that was a pretty cool experience because I think one of my family members said that I could go, and one said that I couldn't. So there was a bit of a drama there, but it was a cool experience, you know. And then I got to go back to school the next day, and she was the first teacher to put me on detention. She was like, I hate to do this to you, but you didn't do your homework, so you got to have detention and learn your lesson. So I did it and did what I had to do. And, just did what I did there. And then, let's see. I remember Miss Farrow for orientation and mobility, Miss Pulowski for orientation and mobility. Um, and kind of a funny story about Miss Farrow. Not really funny, but we would all go to the Busman's Bakery across the street from the school on Frankfurt Avenue, and I'm sure you're familiar with that location. We would all go there, and we would all get what's called spice cookies. I would always get spice cookies, and they were the greatest thing ever. And she would always be the one, to pay for it because we were just little kids. And I always remember just the little things. It didn't have to be big, expensive things. It was just little things, but it was the thought. I would think the moral that I learned from her was, it's not the thing, it's the thought that
Mm-hmm.
counts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had really two good orientation mobility teachers. Um, they really were. The program that they ran was just outstanding. How they developed that program and having you guys progress from just basic learning orientation and mobility skills to the various pass levels that you had to where you could travel citywide, really prepared you guys for life. And it was they just really just developed the orientation mobility program at KSB to the next level and beyond. They just did a fantastic job working together.
Oh yes, definitely. And let's see. I have a question. Okay, now that we're getting into the prom, graduation, all that good stuff, do you have any memories about that aspect of your
Oh yeah,
KSB experience?
springtime brings back some of the best memories I ever had. KSB. It's just so nice to get outside for one thing and hang out with different, all the kids sitting around the table and just having a good old time. But the prom was always an exciting. It's all the various activities in the springtime you always look forward to. But prom was outstanding. I went to two, three, two or three proms. The junior prom, it wasn't the greatest. I mean, it was fun, but I ended up going with someone. I went to prom with a girl, um, and it was fun. It was okay, but my senior prom was the most memorable prom. The three of us, two of my better friends, me and Donnie Stivers and Mike Osborne, we decided that we were going to go stag. And that was the most enjoyable of the proms that I had. Um, the theme of that prom was night fever. And of course, it was the seniors
Oh
class's
yes.
responsibility of hosting the prom at that time. So me being a senior, We decorated for the prom, planned the prom. That was all enjoyable. And but the prom memorization of that prom, I remember that prom so much more so than the junior prom. Um, we ended up riding there actually in the pickup truck. We had Dan Begley. He took us in the pickup truck,
Hmm.
the three of us, to the
Yes.
prom. And we just had such a fun time. We weren't tied down to one date. We could dance with anybody. It was just such a fun
Oh,
time, and
nice.
it was really
Hey,
fun.
Dan Begley, the late great Dan Begley, as I'll say, because he
Yep.
was a very good man, and I remember him when I was there too. And he and I would talk, and he would give me advice if I needed advice on stuff. He would give me advice just like his wife would. Very good at that, and I would say, yeah, my favorite prom memory. I didn't go to the. I was at public school for my senior prom, but for the junior prom, I was there. I took a girl by the name of Tiffany Varro to prom, and that was a pretty good deal. And then, of course, for senior year, I went to public school. But yeah, I think prom and then graduation. Seeing the seniors get on stage and get their diplomas and getting to just see that and see that aspect of their lives. And then, you go to the food center, you line up, you would give them well wishes. And I remember just that was great, great experiences. Do you have any specific graduation memories?
Um, all those graduations are wonderful. But the first graduation I attended, probably, uh, I remember that graduation was actually the 76 class. The ceremony was held
Mm-hmm.
in the new gym. That probably is the one that I remember the most, of course, other than my own, because it was the first, and because
Mm-hmm.
of it was being in the new gym, and just not, seeing the new gym look like that before, with all the flowers and ceremony like that taking place in there. And of course, that class was a really good class. I had a lot of friends in that class, and I hated to see that group go. And so that's one that I remember. Of course, 77, that next year, was the first one that was held in the food service building. And that one was, we performed in that one. We performed in 76 too, the course. And so, the ones, of course, you perform in bring back memories. And, the next year, 78, was my own. The thing that I remember, one of the things I remember about that one is that Oral Miller, who most of the alumni would know because he was one of us. I didn't, of course, know him at the
Yes.
time, but he has, he's a, he's not a person of very few words. His speech was long. And during the middle of that, one of my classmates, Kenny Jennings, during the middle of it, he just leans back in his
Uh
chair and goes, "Oh."
huh. Oh man.
So it's just so
Oh
funny.
man.
But Tim, I didn't realize that you didn't graduate from KSB, that you went to public school your senior year. I didn't realize you did that.
Yes. Yes, I graduated with the senior class of '02, but I did not. I went to public school. I wanted to be a trailblazer. I knew that if I wanted to make an impact in what is now called a typically developing world, I needed to learn in one. I needed to get in that environment early and see what it was going to
Okay.
be like, because I'd heard a lot of what it was like. I heard a lot of tell, but there wasn't a lot of show. So I had to make my own show and do it. And I did it. And I'm the first blind graduate of Franklin County High School in my hometown of the new millennium. So that's a good thing there. And then I remember, let's see, graduations when I was there were held in the auditorium, the Ritchie Auditorium. And I remember watching, let's see, the first one I attended, I think, was the 1992 class. I was maybe about nine, eight going on nine. And I remember this. It was just such a great thing. And then as I got older, I saw, I believe it was the either the 98 or 99 class that had a dueling pomp and circumstance on the guitar. That was amazing. Um, so yeah, real quickly, in closing, do you have any words of wisdom or final thoughts for the class of 2020 that are going to be graduating
Yeah,
this year?
I would just like to wish that class a well. First of all, I'm so sorry that they're not going to experience. Well, it's possible that they're going to experience a typical ceremony, and I hope that they do. I know that's the school's plan is
Oh
to
yeah.
have them come back and have a typical ceremony, and I hope that does happen. But in case it does not, I I just regardless, I just wish them luck as they transition into the next phase of their lives, whether it be post-secondary education or to work or whatever their plans are. And I'm sure that they're going to have some great success. There's some wonderful students in that class, and I'm sure that they're going to do well. But I'll just encourage them to listen to those who are trying to give them advice, those who have in the past and those who will continue to try to give them advice along the way, because it's really good to heed people's advice who have already experienced life. I think that's one of the greatest things that young people can do. I know we think we know it all, but we don't. But just really listen to those whose advice you can trust, and just make some wise decisions along the way. And if you do that, success is going to come your way. And I just wish them good luck.
Yes, I would like to also give some the words of wisdom to the class of 2020. I know that it's, we're just in the start of what's called Senior Appreciation Month or whatever, Senior Tribute Week. But I would like to say, first and foremost, congratulations to the KSB class of 2020 and to all classes of 2020. And to those of you who are needing advice, as Coach Jones said, don't be afraid to seek it out. I mean, yeah, you may not like it and you may not like what you hear at first, but the people that have been there, done that, they know what they're talking about. I remember many times that I would do the same thing. I would come to, teachers or, older students and say, hey, what do you think of this, this, and this? And they would tell it to me straight. I may not like it or I might not have liked it, but I knew just deep down, they knew what they were talking about. One person that I remember very, very well for this was Laura Davis Myers.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you remember her.
Yep.
And Jerry Ettinger. They were good at giving advice, and Barbara Henning was too. So, to all the class of 2020, I know that times are rough right now. I know that times are not the way that they typically should be for you guys, but don't worry, you'll get through it and you'll come out stronger and better on the other side. So in closing, Coach Jones, I would like to say thank you for joining me tonight on the podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a nice experience.
Hey, and I want to let everyone know that if anyone out there is listening, if you would like to learn more about the school, please visit www.ksb.k12.ky.us. Also, if you would like to find the alumni group on Facebook, just search Kentucky School for the Blind Alumni. You'll see a picture of the school sign. And I want to thank Amanda Selm for that. And I also want to let everyone know that this podcast will be available on Spotify, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Castbox FM, and Anchor FM. All right. So, with that being said, this has been episode number 12 of The Blind Side. I want to thank again Mr. Jones for being on the cast, and I look forward to